Welcome to the Creative Coast's video podcasts, featuring Savannah's top thinkers, business people, innovators, and creators. With host B. Ray, director of the Creative Coast, and program director Sharice Bennett. What follows are interviews running on the Creative Coast's website this month. You can check out the podcasts day or night at thecreativecoast.org/blog.
Brick wall after brick wall after brick wall.
Hello and welcome to the front porch. My name is B. Ray. I'm with the Creative Coast, and today we are speaking with Robin Richardson. Welcome, Robin.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for having me on the front porch.
I'm excited to see you.
Yeah, I'm glad to see you too.
So you are passionate about design.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me about it.
I think it started when I was a kid and I was surrounded by well-designed objects, I would say. My grandfather was an engineer, and my father both of my parents have always had great taste for well-made items. So I grew up around those things and taking them apart a lot.
Oh, great.
So I got very into what made a product great and what made something, actually the whole experience, what makes something an amazing experience, and how can you design for that? How can you put the intention into something so that it comes across in a way so that when I find it, the intention of the designer is so well expressed in the object or the visual design or the experience that it speaks to you.
What was one of those objects you grew up around?
This is going to sound funny. I would say guns. And
Okay.
so this is interesting because my father and his brothers are collectors of fine, like English shotguns and things like that. And my grandma's a really great shot. So the funny thing about a well-made gun, like the old handmade guns, is they have to be so tight and so precise that the way they fit together and the way that they function, you can't mess that up. It has to be really precise and very accurate. So being around these objects, I got to understand a lot about craftsmanship and what went into making something so perfect in a way.
And
So,
what does go into something, making something so perfect?
the way that you care for the detail. Like everything, people say the devil's in the detail, but really the beauty is in the detail. Because it's that one thing that can either kind of make or break your experience, whether it's an object, because everyone's had that experience with a product before where they're going to rely on it or they're going to use it and they say, something doesn't just feel right. Like if it's a hand mixer, people, when we talk about objects, usually talk about things in the home, the things that we use a lot. So when you have something that you can always rely on because of the feel and the way that it functions for you, the way that it performs. And when you have an object that doesn't quite get there, you know it, and you don't always pick it up first. It's that thing that you go, oh yeah, I have that, but it's in the back of the drawer.
Right.
So the things that are so well designed that you come to rely on, they have a feel to them that's kind of
Sturdy.
yeah. Well, they become your favorite because they're sturdy, but they have an expectation that gets fulfilled every time. So you can always continue to pick that up and use it, whether it's like, the way that it sits in your hand to peel a potato or a carrot, or it's the way that this switch is going to function, like if it's a hand mixer, and that you can use it every time and it's not going to fritz out, or it's not going to stress you out because you look to that object to participate in doing something that you enjoy.
And so you prefer sort of industrial design or designing objects, or?
I love objects because I love the tactility of them. I grew up as a musician, and so for me, the idea of rhythm and pace and balance, I saw it first in language, and then I started to see it in design objects. That's why I came to graduate school, actually, because I understood language and film and music in the way that synced and fit together, and I could create that. And so I wanted to know how I could do that visually and physically. I wanted to know more, so that's why I came to design school.
And you still are a musician.
Yes, I'm still a musician.
What do you play?
I play guitar, I play piano. I sang with the Missionary Blues this weekend over at Barbecue over on MLK, and I'm going to start getting out with them some more, so I'll be singing and playing some guitar.
You have to be real careful because I might ask you to sing.
That's fine, that's okay.
Go ahead.
Oh, right now?
Yeah.
Oh, jeez. What do you want to hear, I guess? Or do I get to pick?
You get to pick.
Well, let's see. What did I sing this weekend? Oh, I mean, you know what? We're gonna do a prayer. Everybody knows this prayer. And you can sing. You can pray with me on this one. Oh Lord, won't you buy me a Mercedes Benz? My friends all drive Porsches. I must make amends. I worked hard all my lifetime with no help from my friends. So, oh Lord, won't you buy me a Mercedes Benz?
That's beautiful. Wow. Oh my. That was just gorgeous. So you also care a little bit about teaching design.
I care a lot about teaching design.
Tell me.
I taught for 3 years. I taught in Orlando at high school, and I taught English and language, and I taught some yearbook. So getting students exposed to visual design. But I feel like the reason it's any sort of teaching moments are I think the best things in life are educational and entertaining. And usually you don't know you're being taught. So it's like you sneak it in there because you're being entertained. But the translation of an idea from your mind into someone else's is really powerful. And so when I would teach, I liked explaining things to students, and I was constantly translating. So when they're like, why do we have to learn this? I don't understand this. I would start to talk about language in a way that clicked based on their experience. And so you can start to see the wheels turn, and then you see the eyes go, and they're like, oh, I get it. You mean it's like this? Yes, it's like that. Oh, I get it. I understand it now. So I would like to design everything in the world, just to be amazing. But I think that it's about translating this idea into form. And so with teaching, it's usually done through language. But you can also teach through objects. You can teach through visuals. You can teach because you're always translating that into something that becomes tangible for someone, that they can then take it and reinterpret it and make it their own.
So have you helped certain students design products or services?
I haven't really taught design yet. It's something that I probably did in my last job because I worked with a lot of non-designers. So yes, I feel like I was constantly educating about these principles and how in their minds it said one thing, but in design we say it a different way. So it was constantly bridging that gap, but then them going, oh, I understand, oh, I see. So yeah, I guess I do teach design, but not in a formal way, in a casual, interactive way.
And it's a little bit of design appreciation as well as actually, hey, rethink this idea.
Sure.
Right.
Because in explaining those principles and ideals, I would have people say, well, I don't understand why we're just going to use color and I'll just put color on it. And I was like, no, that's art. When you just get to decide how you want to put color on it, whatever you want. But with design, it's intentional. So part of deconstructing design ideals and why choices are made and why certain things occur a certain way, then it translates into, oh, now I get it. Now I can use it because I understand why that's done. I understand the intention, so I can be more intentional when I move forward in making decisions.
Wow. Well, Robin, I just thank you so much for being such a creative force here in Savannah, musically, design, educationally. It's just a delight to spend time with you. Thanks for being on the front porch.
Yeah.
And thanks for being part of the Creative Coast.
Thank you.
Hello and welcome to the front porch. My name is Bee Ray. I'm with the Creative Coast, and today we have with us Sarah Swiatlowski. Welcome, Sarah. And we have Lindy Weimer. Welcome.
Thank you.
We're happy to have you. And you're both with Noble Mouse.
Yep.
What does Noble Mouse do?
We are a small interactive agency here in Savannah, and we like to solve brand problems.
Got it. And you, Sarah, work mostly with social media?
A little social media, a little more on the business side of things now, but originally came in doing social media things.
And where did you get started in life regarding social media?
It actually happened when I was back in Massachusetts, which is where I lived before Savannah. I was working at monster.com, and I just really liked social media, and I was kind of the only one in my department that had any knowledge of Twitter or anything. So when the marketing department decided that they were going to launch into the brave new Twitter world, I kind of became the customer service arm of things because no one else was doing it. So that eventually brought me to Savannah and working on brand related social media.
Got it. And how long ago was this that Monster was embracing Twitter?
It was probably about 5.5 years ago now, was when they launched things, and then I've been here in Savannah for 4 years.
Oh, well, welcome. And Lindy, you are more in the programming UX. Where are you?
Right now I'm in user experience design.
Oh, okay.
I actually started in product design. I got my degree here at SCAD and worked in product design for Target before I moved to the digital world. And so now for probably the last 7 years or so, I've been doing digital user experience work.
Got it. So how does the user navigate through a website? Is that what you're thinking about?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'm usually involved from strategy all the way until the end of the process. So, I'm the one who's always thinking about what the user is doing, what they're thinking, trying to think, 10 steps ahead so we can plan and design for that and, come away with a great experience for them.
And how do you test that out?
We do a lot of testing ourselves, a lot trying to figure it out, or we'll take it to friends or take it to users to just get it in front of them and see what they think, see what works and what doesn't.
Ever have any surprises?
I don't think so. Nothing that's been too shocking anyway.
Just getting in their heads.
Yep, exactly.
And so what kind of clients are you working with as far as, you don't have to be specific if you don't want, but are they big companies, small companies, introducing brands, managing brands?
We really have a little bit of everything from established national brands that in the entertainment industry that we love working with. And we've also started working with some startups to kind of help them from the start to define their branding, what their online presence will be. So we do a little bit of everything.
And you called it solving brand problems. How does one know when they have a brand problem?
Sometimes they don't realize that they have a problem. And I guess problem is more of a general term. It's something that we kind of have termed things. But, someone may come to us with saying, we need to sell more XYZ. Help us do that. So that's their problem. So it's not necessarily like something that's going very wrong. It's just what they're looking to us to help them either give them some strategy around or correct their course and put them on the right path to whatever they're trying to achieve.
Right. And did Monster have a brand problem, or they had a network social media opportunity?
There was more of an opportunity because at that point social media was fairly new, and they saw a lot of the successes that, this was kind of in the early days of like Ford doing things really well and Comcast with, Comcast Cares. And so they really saw an opportunity for them to get involved in that area. And I worked at Monster for 5 years, and so I worked sort of the tail end of their startup phase, and I saw tremendous growth over the 5 years that I was there. And so it was really interesting to see them evolve from that, very startup mentality through a growing business. And now I feel like now they have more of an identity crisis because they're trying to figure out how their traditional more mindset and hiring or helping people hire fits in with the world of social and with LinkedIn and things that kind of have evolved outside of what they were doing.
So I'm putting you on the spot a little bit, but do you remember the Tickle merger?
Yep.
So those were my buddies.
I was there when that happened.
So 2 of my buddies sold their company to Monster. It was a really good experience for them.
Time. Sorry, I got a cough. Sorry, I was fighting it the whole time. Okay, you're good. Go.
So thank you for helping them make that all a great success. We appreciate that. And Lindy, tell us more about product design from the world of a website versus Target, where you probably were you still doing, you said product design.
Yes.
So it's the user experience with a particular product that was being launched at Target, not so much how do you walk your way through the store.
I was actually in a unique position where I was a trend designer. So I worked with all of their home decor team, so I got to help influence what the trends were, what materials they were using each season of the year. For me, moving from the physical product world to a digital product world, I rely heavily on my design process. And, being able to adapt that to a website or a product or even an experience, has really been invaluable to me, because I still use that same process centered around the user, regardless of really what the end product is. So it's been fun to see, my career evolve and to see how it differs in, those different realms.
Talk to us a little bit about what is design process. What does that look like?
Well, for me, I think, the number one thing is you become an expert in the field of whatever that product is you're working on. So I absorb all the information I can, like a sponge. I want to know anything and everything. And then, from there, I, rely heavily on our strategy team, and we each kind of have a piece in that, where that's when we start to break down, opportunities, and we see, problems that are arising, how we can solve them. That's when we kind of have fun with the what ifs and, the blue sky moments of, if we didn't have any limitations, what could we do? So, that always is fun, a fun part of the process. But then for me, I usually get to break all of those ideas down and make them happen, whether, it's in the website or a product. So, it's a lot of sifting through information and organizing, and then, always thinking about how it comes across to that end user.
And how involved is the client throughout this process?
It generally depends on the client. Some are involved as much as, sitting in on brainstorming meetings with us to throw ideas out there. Others, we check in with them, along the way throughout the process. They're never kept in the dark, but we definitely share some things with some clients, some that maybe are more tech savvy or are used to, seeing things like wireframes or, more technical documentation. So that's usually a case-by-case basis.
And the purpose of the wireframe is?
Wireframes really are like the blueprint. So that's what I put together to show the site structure, the site organization. It lays out the content and hierarchy for each page, all of the little interactions and functionality that's happening. So those really become the blueprint first for the creative designers to, design the aesthetic and the creative look and feel that the user sees, but also for our development team who actually builds what we design.
And is there ever any loss of translation between here's what we are designing and here's what you're building?
There can be.
Yeah.
Yes,
And
there
how do you
definitely
overcome
can
that?
be.
I think for that one, it depends on the developers that you're working with, because some developers are able to transition a little bit more and have that design thought, and other developers are just like code all day long, and so those you have to find a different way to explain it to them.
Sure.
And also keeping them involved in the process.
Yeah.
So we try to involve them early on in the process so they know what's happening, they can bring ideas to the table. They can also throw up red flags if they see anything that's going to cause problems down the road.
Because sometimes we think up ideas and then they're like, we don't know how we're going to build this. So,
Yep. So the better we communicate as a team, usually the smoother the process goes.
And then that gets set up, and then you're kind of making sure that the user is experiencing it the way you want them to.
Yep, exactly.
So there was a startup on Broughton Street a few years ago, and we called it Peck for Pizza. And every Friday we would invite anyone to the community we'd feed you pizza if you would just peck the keyboard and see if you ended up in the place we hoped you ended up. And didn't always work out that way, but it was good to have learned.
It's true. You always learn when you get to experience and observe, what the user is doing and what they're thinking.
Right. Well, both Lindy and Sarah, I'm so thankful that you're here. I appreciate all the work that you do at Noble Mouse and beyond, and it's just great to have you as part of the creative community here in Savannah.
thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hello and welcome to the Front Porch. My name is Bee Ray. I'm with the Creative Coast, and today we are chatting it up with Bill Green and Kevin Thompson here from Noble Mouse. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So Kevin, you are the founder, CEO of Noble Mouse.
Correct.
Tell us about Noble Mouse and where you began and why. And
Noble Mouse. I have been in the marketing business for several years. Started an agency here in Savannah back in '98. we worked for several years, ended up merging with another company, and then just went back to wanting to leave and do it on my own again. So met a bunch of great people and great clients and did a lot of great stuff and gained more experience, and just trying to continue that trend and keep it going.
What do you love about marketing?
Love the people that we meet, the clients that we deal with, travel that we get to do. It's a lot of fun. Technology, staying on top of technology, and I've always enjoyed it. So,
How about you, Bill? Where's your background, and where did you come into deciding being part of an agency was what you wanted to do?
Well, that first answer is that Kevin asked, and I said yes. I've been around an agency, basically in the agency life for years, through agencies up north, where I'm from originally, and New York, worked in New York, worked in Minneapolis. Found my way down south a couple of years ago, and came in contact with Kevin after he had been running the interactive group at our previous agency. And then we started this about a little over 2 years ago and started Noble Mouse. So,
Great. And what does it mean to be chief of strategy?
it's a fancy title for
Okay.
doing a lot of different things. But one of the main things that I get to do is work with brands in terms of suggesting overall guidance for what they should do in their marketing, as well as how they can work in the interactive space and traditional spaces as well. So, but it varies a lot of times because you're either developing full plans for people or you're just kind of fine-tuning what they already do. So it really does vary.
How do you define brand?
How do I define brand? That's a good one. I don't know that I have a short answer for that. I think you mean multiple things, but yeah, I don't have a good, concise, short answer for that.
One of my most interesting debates I was a part of, or really was just watching, was this discussion. First week in business school, and someone answered, well, it's a promise. Your brand is your promise. And a lot of us thought that was a nice, simple, easy way to answer it. And another person was violently in disagreement. It's so much more than a promise. And I just wondered where you fit on that scale, or not even on that scale at all.
Probably all over that scale.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a promise. I think the brand would have its own opinion of what it is, and then to me, a brand is half what the brand itself puts out and how people perceive it and use it and experience it. So to me, that brand definition really is defined by what your experience with it is, if it's good or bad. And that, I think, to me, it can be a good experience if it's JetBlue and their customer service is awesome, or if Domino's has a bad experience with your pizza, then you're going to have a negative impression. So I think it's what you get out of it. Apple, for example, it's a great experience all around, and it's one of my most favorite brands because they do everything well.
So that is a great observation, and kind of jumps to what it means to be an interactive agency in a lot of ways, because you're actually creating the user experience along the way. So you're controlling that part of the brand. Talk about what it means to have an interactive agency.
Well, for me, I started out my first agency as purely interactive, flash-based. It's all we did was website development, and it was hard because it was always thought of as the last piece of the puzzle. Whenever a brand was working with an agency, they were thinking of the traditional mindset. And over the years, technology changed, digital space. Now it's almost like digital has become the hub, and everything is kind of going from there. So we're at a kind of important crossroads, I think, with being able to help brands focus in that space they need to be in, even though they're used to a more traditional mindset, and then kind of go out from there.
And I think control is a loaded word because at the end of the day, you make your best recommendations, and
Right.
brands will end up doing whatever they want to do. And it's frustrating at times, but when it works, it's because people on the brand side have a certain vision and will allow you some latitude to go and pursue that. But again, you're always... No, I don't know that anybody has total control. And I don't even think the brand has control of how they're perceived, especially in the new digital space where social media can kind of give them a reality check.
Great. Tell me about running a business in Savannah, Georgia. Why here? What works here? What are ways you'd like to see your business improve?
That's a loaded question. I enjoy Savannah. I'm from the Bahamas originally. I like being in Savannah. I like raising a family in Savannah. That's why I love Savannah. What we do, we really could do from anywhere. And we don't have a ton of clients in Savannah. The majority of our clients are outside, so we're always traveling anyway. So I think for me and for most of us, it's just we love the city. We love, the area. We love being here, being by the water. So doing business in Savannah has its challenges. Again, I'm from a much smaller place than Savannah even, so I guess I'm kind of used to that mindset, whereas others may not be. But it just seems Savannah has definitely grown up a lot in the last 10 or 15 years, and it used to be a lot tougher back in the late 90s to do business in Savannah than it is now. So it's progressing and progressing well.
Great. Sounds like companies like yours are a part of that.
I hope so. Hope so.
About you, for you, Bill, you came from a bigger place to Savannah, right?
Yeah, but I think that's part of the reason I like the smaller places, because just having been recently up in Manhattan, you can see the agency life is a different. It's not that pressure's everywhere, but the agency life there is so compressed, especially in digital Dumbo, for example, in the Brooklyn area where there's a high concentration of digital shops. It's just all consuming, and I think there's a quality of life that happens in small towns that gets missed there. We all work on the same clients that are international and national. We have Warner Brothers for a client and NBC, and so the rules have changed as to where you service those clients from. You don't have to be there. Sure, occasionally on large meetings you do, but we can basically handle that from here. And the quality of life here is just so much more laid back that I think it affords us a lifestyle that you're not going to get in Chicago and LA.
Right.
So those are some pretty big names. And how is that sales pitch? Is there a sense of, Noble Mouse, you're smaller and from a smaller town, we're Warner Brothers.
It can. I think the work ends up speaking for itself, but even though we have an office in Los Angeles as well, we also have a few people working remotely over the country. So altogether we're about 26, 27 people. So we're of decent size to get in front of the clients, but it's all for us word of mouth. From one client to the next, or moving from one brand to the next, and that's really been our biggest help. We do one great thing for a client, they're not going to forget about it, and they'll always want to work with us. And that's proved true since I started business in '98. So, and more importantly, the team that we have and the expertise that we have and the people we bring on. I mean, the clients see that when we pitch, and just all together, it's a good combination.
I think because the business is very transient in nature, and that hasn't changed. People come and go, and if you build a relationship with someone that likes you, they almost always move on to somewhere else, and then they remember you and call you, and it's quite honestly, it's that simple.
So it's the personal relationships.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. If you don't maintain a personal relationship with the client, then it just doesn't matter next year.
Right. Well, Kevin, Bill, it's really great to see you. I love the work I see you doing at Noble Mouse. Thank you for being part of the creative community here in Savannah.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Hello and welcome to the Front Porch. My name is Bee Ray. I'm with the Creative Coast, and today we're chatting it up with Jono Young. Welcome, Jono.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
We're
Really
delighted
excited to be down here.
Awesome. So you are a web app designer, developer, techno
I'm
guy.
about like 90% of those things.
Okay.
I'm really a start to finish project guy, so I can take it from sales and discovery through launching it and marketing it. With one exception, I am not a back-end programmer. HTML, CSS, fine, a bit of JavaScript. When you get into programming language, I leave it to guys that are really great at that, which is not my passion. But I really love the beginning of the project, the communication, and seeing it through to success and finding a easy way to do that.
And what normally is the it?
Today, most recently, it's really web applications, mobile applications, a mix of iPad and iPhone applications or web application. A lot of medical applications recently, really complicated things that doctors need to do. What's great about that is you get to learn about all these other professions. You become an expert at being a doctor from a technology perspective. You figure out how to actually make it easy for them to do their jobs with with technology.
And is there a certain kind of physician, like a ER physician might use an app more often than a cardiologist, or not necessarily?
It could really be for any of them. Recently, it's been who are the guys that work on joints?
Like
orthopedic surgeons.
Yes.
Yeah.
How interesting.
Recently, the most recent project, I got to work on a search engine for shopping, which I can't even tell you about, but it's really cool. I mean, you can find everything you want at the price you want. It'll tell you when the time to buy is and that sort of thing. Really cool. It's still in an alpha, so I get to see really cool stuff that I can't talk about when it's not quite live yet.
Incredible. And so tell us about Spark.
Wow, Spark. I started working at Spark about a year and a half ago. It's been 75 weeks actually, because that's how I keep my my timesheet going.
Great.
75, 76. So Spark it's a really fun company, nonstop. There's things like darts flying overhead. It's very relaxed. The culture is great. It's a fun atmosphere. But some of the smartest people on the planet are in there working really hard. So you can throw things over a fence and know that it's going to be okay. You don't have to worry about what's going to happen when this other person starts working on a project. You just know that it's going to go in the right direction.
Got it.
For me, it was a big change going from what you would call a waterfall methodology to an agile methodology. So Spark is very agile. It's primary software development, and occasionally we'll do a marketing site for the software when it goes live. So we see it from an entrepreneur with an idea on paper to a finished product to an actual live website where we begin to see users starting to use the application that we built. So that's really cool.
That is a great point, but I want to slow down and actually go back and define those terms. So what is waterfall?
Waterfall is, I'm not a big word guy, but in layman's terms, I would say waterfall is writing a scope on one day and predicting that you will finish that scope and all of the work within it 6 months down the road, and what you have completed in 6 months will be what was in that scope originally. And most people know that the scope is never actually what you end up building. So in waterfall, you predict what's going to happen and you try to land that prediction further down the road with a happy customer. In contrast to that, you have agile, where agile very loosely defines what the scope of the project is, just enough to understand a problem and start working on a solution, but the scope can really change every 2 or 3 weeks. So what you finish with is something the customer's happy with, but might be radically different than what we thought it would be when we started.
Because there's a lot of opportunities along the way to pivot.
Absolutely. It's all about pivoting. It's all about, really to sum up agile, it's build, test, learn, pivot, and then build and then test. You constantly are checking and validating, whereas with waterfall, you maybe only test it at the end when it's too late. So.
Right. And that was a transition you said for yourself a year and a half ago, where you kind of went from one methodology to the other.
It was I'd say in the final 2 years of being in the waterfall environment, I had started curving the interactive team from waterfall into smaller, bite-sized, agile type projects. And it was really the product of the economy shrinking. When funds became really small, selling a waterfall project got to be very difficult. So I said, let's be agile, let's deliver 1/4 of that project in a way that actually makes them that budget back. They can then take that money they've made, the ROI, invest it in the next quarter, in the next quarter. So rather than selling one waterfall project, we did get a bit agile and sold 4 small projects. So I was leaning towards agile, but I didn't know. I didn't know about that term when I was doing it. So it's something that I'm very interested in, and I plan to do some writing about pretty soon.
Great. Writing on a blog or?
Yeah, so I'm just starting this brand. I have, can I mention this?
Sure.
Okay. So I am born a teacher and an educator. I wanted to be a teacher when I went into college. The curriculum was crazy, so I changed directions. And then I was going to be this fine artist. Still love fine art. One day I'll do that when I retire. And then I learned about Photoshop, and I became a graphic designer, but I still want to teach. So I I'm creating this brand called Weepiphany, and the tagline is, I write, you learn, Weepiphany. So
Wow,
that's the thing. And I plan to write about the past 15 years of my career in a way that people can take it. So it'll be blogging and books.
And do you have some of these thoughts already written out that you'll be ready?
I do. I've got a moleskin full of a good 3 years of things to write about. But what is interesting about the way I'll go about doing it differently now is, rather than having the blog link on my website, I have a pages link. So I'm going to write many blog posts, and whichever one gets the most traffic, I'm going to pivot and write a book as quickly as I can about that subject area. So
Great.
kind of an influential way to figure out what do people want to learn about.
So you're basically agile development through the...
Yeah, absolutely. I think Agile, I don't want to say I'm obsessed with it, but it makes sense in a lot of cases, from raising a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, which I'm doing as good as I can with my awesome wife, to working. I mean, it just makes sense to take small steps, figure out what's working, and then go from there.
Isn't that great? And those themes are consistent with lean startup and minimal viable product. And so what you're doing is you're kind of putting a blog post out as a minimal viable product, and then I think you said is you would gather some that might even become a book.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I have 4 books, I think, that I'm going to write right now. And one of them is based on a waterfall methodology that I built that works like every time. It's great, but it's full of things that Agile is based on, like measurement and checks and balances and lots of communication. It's also very transparent. So there's lots of things in Agile that are also in waterfall, but people who are doing waterfall don't know about Agile, and there's this huge gap that I'm trying to get in and fill, and it's new for me. So I think if you're learning, that's the key. If you're learning something, you're happy. So I'm learning, and I hope to be able to teach other people what I'm learning as well.
So you write, I learn, Weepiphany.
Exactly.
The tagline is, I write, you learn, Epiphany. Well, I have already learned from you, Jono. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you again for having me.
We're delighted to have you here, and I really look forward to seeing more with Weepiphany.
Absolutely, yeah, we will Epiphany.
Awesome. Great. Thank you.
Cool, thank you.